This is the first video in a series I am creating entitled The History of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Charles Taze Russell was the founder of what is now known as Jehovah's Witnesses, and the energetic administrator that brought about its far-flung organization. The name Jehovah's Witnesses incidentally was taken at Columbus, Ohio, in 1931 to differentiate between the Watchtower and the true followers of Russell, as represented by the Dawn Bible students and the Layman's Home missionary movement. Charles Taze Russell was born on February 16, 1852, as the son of Joseph and Anna Eliza Russell, and spent most of his early years in Allegheny, Pennsylvania, where at the age of 25 he was manager of several men's furnishing stores. At an early age he rejected the doctrine of eternal punishment, due apparently to the severe indoctrination he had received as a Congregationalist, and as a result of this act entered upon a long and varied career of denunciation aimed at organized religions. In 1870, at the age of 18, Russell organized a Bible class in Pittsburgh, which in 1876 elected him pastor of the group. From 1876 to 1878 the pastor was assistant editor of a small Rochester, New York monthly magazine, but resigned when a controversy arose over Russell's counter-arguments on the atonement of Jesus Christ. Shortly after leaving his position, Russell founded Zion's Watchtower in 1879, which is known today as the Watchtower announcing Jehovah's Kingdom. This magazine has grown until it had surpassed even Russell's fondest dreams. In the year 1884, Pastor Russell incorporated Zion's Watchtower Tract Society at Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which in 1886 published the first in a series of 7 books entitled Studies in the Scriptures. The 6th volume was published in 1904, and the 7th volume in 1917 after his death. The 7th volume, entitled The Finished Mystery, caused a split in the organization which culminated in a clean division, the larger group following J.F. Rutherford. The smaller groups remained by themselves, and one of these subsequently became the Dawn Bible Students Association, which sponsors the Coast to Coast radio program, Frank and Ernest, publishes the Dawn magazine with circulation of over 30,000 per month, and has its headquarters and publishing plant in East Rutherford, New Jersey. In the end, under Rutherford's leadership, the society became known as Jehovah's Witnesses and survives to this day. In 1908, the headquarters of the movement were moved to Brooklyn, New York, where property was purchased at 17 Hicks Street, which became known as the Brooklyn Tabernacle. Large tracts of property were purchased here. The society at Columbia Heights grew and prospered until today, where whole blocks are in their possession. Among the other things the society owns are a large up-to-date printing plant, which has produced over 2 billion pieces of literature since its inauguration in 1928, and experienced many expansions since then. A modern apartment building and office quarter. Also owned is the Three Kingdom Farms, which supply food, wood for furniture, and so on. A Bible school called Gilead was also formed, which since its opening in 1943, had sent out approximately 11,000 missionaries of the kingdom. And there are many other enterprises the society owns as well. All employees in the factory are allowed $14 a month, receive room and board, and work for nothing. No salaries are paid. Russell continued his teaching until his death on October 31, 1916, aboard a transcontinental train in Texas. Pastor Russell had a remarkable life, highly colored with legal entanglements, but not without success in his chosen field. The following account is quoted from the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, November 1, 1916, and it illustrates Russell's character. It states, quote,
"A year after this publication, the Watchtower had been established. Russell married Maria Ackley in Pittsburgh. She had become interested in him through his teachings, and she helped him in running the Watchtower. 2 years later, in 1881, came the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, the agency through which in later years Pastor Russell's sermons were published as advertisements in newspapers throughout the world. This society progressed amazingly under the joint administration of husband and wife, But in 1897 Mrs. Russell left her husband. 6 years later, in 1903, she sued for separation. There was much litigation then that was quite undesirable from the pastor's point of view regarding alimony for his wife, but it was settled in 1909 by the payment of $6,036 to Maria Russell. The litigation revealed that Pastor Russell's activities in the religious field were carried on through several subsidiary societies, and that all of the wealth which flowed into him through these societies was under the control of a holding company, in which the pastor held $990 of the $1,000 capital, and 2 of his followers the other $10.
Thus Russell apparently controlled the entire financial power, the society, and was not accountable to anyone. After the work had been well started here, Pastor Russell's Watchtower publications advertised wheat seed for sale at $1 a pound. It was styled miracle wheat, and it was asserted that it would grow 5 times as much as any other brand of wheat. There were other claims made for the wheat seed, and the followers were advised to purchase it. The proceeds to go to the Watchtower, and be used in publishing the pastor's sermons. The Eagle first made public the facts about this new venture, and it published a cartoon picturing the pastor and his miracle wheat in such a way that Pastor Russell brought suit for libel, asking $100,000 in damages. Government departments investigated the wheat for which $1 a pound was asked, and agents of the government were important witnesses at the trial of the libel suit in January of 1913. The miracle wheat was low in the government tests, they said. The Eagle won the lawsuit. In recent years, the Watchtower has said that Russell never made a cent on the miracle wheat, and that it was a contribution to the society, just as innocent as a church cake sale. They characteristically omit the fact that Russell alone controlled the Watchtower, owning 990 of the 1,000 shares of its stock. Therefore, any contributions to it were actually to him. This fact just proves another Watchtower attempt to dodge the truth. Prior to entering court, the Eagle had said, quote,
"The Eagle goes even further and declares that at the trial it will show that Pastor Russell's religious cult is nothing more than a money-making scheme."
End quote. The court's decision vindicated the Eagle's statement and proved its reliability. All during this time, the pastor's sermons were being printed in newspapers throughout the world. Notably when he made a tour of the world in 1912, and caused accounts to be published in his advertised sermons telling of enthusiastic greetings at the various places he visited. It was shown in many cases that the sermons were never delivered in the places that were claimed. For the benefit of any Jehovah's Witness who may think that the miracle wheat fraud is an invention of the jealous religionists or opposers who are trying to defame the pastor's memory, I will now document the scandal, trial, and verdict from the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, which is obtainable at the Montague Street branch of the Brooklyn Public Library. The Eagle led the fight to expose the hypocrisy of Pastor Russell, and nothing could be more appropriate than their on-the-spot testimony as to his many fraudulent claims. The following evidence is taken from the Brooklyn Daily Eagle, page 18, February 19, 1912, and is entitled, Pastor Russell's Imaginary Sermons. Printed reports of addresses in foreign lands that he never made. One at Hawaii, a sample. These excerpts concern the pastor's world tour, and are very enlightening, with respect to his reliability and truthfulness. It says, quote,
Pastor Russell, who has found the atmosphere of Brooklyn uncongenial ever since the Eagle published the facts concerning his methods and morals, is making some new records in the far parts of the world. He is delivering sermons to imaginary audiences on tropical islands and completing searching investigations into the missions of China and Japan by spending a few hours in each country. Following the Eagle's exposing Pastor Russell's miracle wheat enterprise, and the publication of the testimony, on the basis of which Mrs. Russell obtained a separation and alimony, the pastor developed the world tour idea. He set his printing plant to work to get out advanced literature, huge bundles of which were sent to every place where he intended to appear. Then he contracted for advertising space in many American newspapers to print his imaginary sermons. His first stop, after sailing from the Pacific coast, was Honolulu. And presto! The newspapers in which advertising space had been engaged printed long cable dispatches, which presented the pastor's discourses. In one paper, which printed the advertisement, the opening sentences read, Honolulu, Hawaiian Islands. The International Bible Students Committee of Foreign Mission Investigation stopped at Honolulu and made observations. Pastor Russell, chairman of the committee, delivered a public address. He had a large audience and attentive hearing. Then follows the sermon, full of local color and allusions to the paradise of the Pacific. I can now well understand, the printed report makes the pastor say, why your beautiful island is the paradise of the Pacific. I note your wonderful climate and everything which contributes to bring about this paradise likeness, and so on for 2 columns. It has long been known that Pastor Russell has a strong imagination, but now it appears that he is even capable of delivering imaginary sermons. Pastor Russell never spoke in Honolulu during the few hours that his ship stopped there to take on coal. In the hope of securing an accurate report of his sermon, the Eagle wrote to the editor of the Hawaiian Star, which was published in Honolulu. The following reply was received shortly after. In answer to your inquiry of December 19 concerning Pastor Russell, I would say that he was here for a few hours with a Bible Student Committee of Foreign Mission Investigation, but did not make a public address as was anticipated. Walter G. Smith, editor, Star.
On page 18 of the same article of the Daily Eagle. February 19, 1912. Photographically reproduced evidence of the imaginary sermon, and editors Smith's letter branding it a lie can be found and leave no doubt as to the Pastor Russell's character. The following article entitled, Tour of the Orient branded huge advertising scheme, appeared in the January 11, 1913 Brooklyn Daily Eagle. It says, quote, As to the pastor's methods of carrying Russellism to the heathen, and the speed to with which his searching investigations into the missions of the world are being conducted. The Japan Weekly Chronicle of January 11 supplies some interesting information. After explaining how the office of the paper for weeks had been bombarded with Russell literature and advanced agents with contracts just as if the reverend gentleman were an unregenerate theatrical company. The Chronicle says, quote, These gentlemen arrived in Japan on Saturday, the 30th of December. On the following day Pastor Russell delivered a sermon in Tokyo entitled, Where are the Dead? Which, though the title is a little ambiguous, does not seem to have any special connection with the mission work. On Monday it is assumed that the mission work in Japan was begun and finished. For the next day seems to be devoted to traveling. And on Wednesday Pastor Russell and his co-adjusters left Kobe for China, in the same vessel in which they had arrived in Yokohama. The truth is that the whole expedition is merely a huge advertising scheme. Russell carried on many such advertising stunts. And despite his protestations about earthly governments and laws being organizations of the devil, he was always the first to claim their protection when it was convenient for him to do so. To mention one instance in addition to the Eagle suit, Russell brought suit for defamatory libel against the Reverend J. Ross, pastor of the James Street Baptist Church of Hamilton, Ontario, when the minister wrote a pamphlet denouncing Russell's theology and personal life. Russell lost this suit with Joseph Rutherford as his attorney. These are the facts of the libel suit as it actually occurred. In June 1912 the Reverend J. Ross published a pamphlet entitled, Some Facts About the Self-Styled Pastor Charles T. Russell, which minced no words in its denunciation of Russell, his qualifications as a minister, or his moral example as a pastor. Russell promptly sued Ross for defamatory libel. In an effort to silence the minister, before the pamphlet could gain wide circulation, and expose his true character, and the errors of his theology. Ross, however, was unimpressed by Russell's action, and eagerly seized upon the opportunity, as a means of exposing Russell for the fraud he was. In his pamphlet Ross assailed Russell's teachings, as revealed in studies in the scriptures, as the, quote, destructive doctrine of one man who is neither a scholar nor a theologian. End quote. Ross scathingly denounced Russell's whole system as, quote, anti-rational, anti-scientific, anti-biblical, anti-Christian, and a deplorable perversion of the gospel of God's dear Son. End quote. This is the end of part 1 of the history of Jehovah's Witnesses. I hope you enjoyed the show. In the next part of the series, we will take a closer look at the Some Facts About C.T. Russell pamphlet and explore more of the history of Jehovah's Witnesses. Thanks for watching.